as always, I never quite know if it's recording, but I think it is. I put a little post up this morning that I was speaking to this lovely friend of mine. And I have to say, I think the phrase is blessed. It isn't one that I would normally use, but I am definitely blessed to have amazing friends, interesting friends, fascinating friends, and nobody more than this person. I put a little message on the group today to say that I were interviewing her this morning, and I've never had so many direct messages ever. They were still coming in when I clicked on to speak to you this morning. So, ladies and gentlemen, international clairvoyant and medium, Joanne Gregory.
Good morning. Hi, everyone.
So, well, what did your careers officer say to you when you told them what you wanted to do for a living? That was a bit of a bloody conversation and a half, wasn't it?
Well, you definitely didn't know about this, and really neither did I until, till I was in my 20s, really. You see, when you've got these abilities, you think everybody's the same. As a kid, you don't think you're different until people start telling you that you are. And then you realise that actually maybe not everybody can see that their grand's still there with them and that kind of stuff. So we would have never seen it. I actually went and trained up to be a baker, of all things.
Yeah, but a bit different, of all things.
I know. I wanted to be a trolley dolly. I wanted to fly around the world, and my mum didn't want me to. So she thought I'd be a journalist, which kind of fitted for later. But yeah, no, I went to make cakes. Been trying to lose the weight ever since.
But do you think that this kind of work is a vocation and you're chosen for it anyway, that no matter what you did, you would always have ended up where you are?
I think so now. I really do believe that now. I do think I had a choice in it. I definitely didn't read small print, when I signed up for it, because there's a lot of responsibility with my work. You don't take it lightly, and if you ever just do it for money, then they'll just take it away. So these people that lose the gift because they've gone really massively over top with it, I think it's because they've lost what they did it for originally. So you can't do that. You've got to stick to it for the right reasons, and so it does become a vocation. And I really care about absolutely everybody I read for. I really do. In fact, sometimes take it home a bit. That's why I'd never be a social worker. I'd have 45 kids, 65 dogs, everything.
I'd help you with dogs.
Yeah. They'd all be living here because I wouldn't be able to do it. So sometimes it's hard to detach, but I think that empathy just gives me that little bit of an edge in my work.
Yeah, well, we'll talk in a bit about the intensity that, I've witnessed what you do many times. I have to say, there's one thing that I always think when I see you, Joanne. I always think, oh shit, my eyebrows are in comparison to yours. I'm not being funny, but I've just noticed that again. Anyway, it's too late to do anything about it now. But I remember that first time when I met you, and you might not do, and you were doing an event in Sheffield, and I swear this is the truth. So there was a big poster, a full-length poster of you, and I'm there with my mate, and I turned to this dark-haired woman outside and I says, I bet this looks good. I wonder if she's any good. So she goes, what? So this lady said, well, yeah, I hope she is. So I said, is she here yet? Oh, is it? And you literally stood next to a poster. You just looked at me and you said, it's me, sweetheart. And this is what happened in that audience. There were probably 250 people in that audience that night. And there were me and my friend. My friend had lost a daughter. And you had never met me before. Never. And even if you had, you wouldn't have known the detail. And you looked at me and my friend and you said, which one of you two have lost a little boy? And I said, me. And you just said, well, he's stood here and he's just said to me, it's a long time ago and yesterday. it will always be yesterday. And when I'm working and I'm saying what happened to my son, Jackson, that's what I say. It's a long time ago and yesterday. And then you went on to describe him. And you said he's slightly shorter than your younger son. How would you have known about that? That I even had another son. And he said, he's telling me he's a little Italian. He's an Italian man. My mother was half Italian. And Jackson was very dark, very olive skin, very black eyes. You told me what I put in the coffin. You told me what happened to him, which I rarely talk about. There might be 5 people on the planet that know exactly what happened in that nursery to my son. And then you said, who's Danny? Danny. And I said, well, I think you're probably talking about Danny. That's my second son. And you said, well, I don't mind what he's called, but he's at university doing sports science. And he was at Sheffield University doing a master's in sports science. You also said there's rugby in your family, and your elder boy is built like a rugby player, but he's like a movie star, which is everybody has said he was the most beautiful boy. That knocked me backwards. And I have seen you go into that kind of detail so many times. Before this goes out, we're going to put a little film that I made of you working. And I promise you, everybody listening, it is the truth. I was there. I can only say sorry that we had to film it with a Christmas tree coming out at top of Joanne's head because we couldn't get her to move. But anyway, so for me, it is indisputable. I want you to tell us when your first experience was with your gift, and were you frightened of it? Did you understand it? Did you know what it was? Tell us how old you were. What happened?
Well, I think now, as an adult looking back, I probably was born with it. But because I had a lot of imaginary friends. My mum, she used to say that they used to have to put a place at table for certain ones. I had somebody called Dougal with me a lot when I was little, and she said she thought it was the dog off Magic Roundabout. So and then one day she actually asked me, she said, is Dougal a doggy? I said, no, he's a man with a skirt. So he was obviously a Scottish. And I think he was my first guide, and things weren't always very easy growing up. So he sort of kind of protected me. And then I know a lot of kids, in my experience, a lot of kids have psychic ability. They've kind of not forgotten where they've come from, but it dissipates over time. Well, mine didn't. Mine stayed, and it just got stronger. And then I had some trauma in my life around about 14 years old, and in the middle of the night, the room lit up, and there was knocking on the window. And I mean, note to self, don't open curtains if you're on the second floor and somebody's knocking on your window. But I did.
Write that down.
Yeah, but I did, and there was 2 of what I can only describe as angels. You couldn't look at them because the light was so intense, but the shape of them, and things then turned completely around for me, and I started to be aware of what actually gifts I'd got and what I could sense that other people couldn't. Prior to that, you're just a kid, so I reckon from birth. But then in my 20s, I lost a little girl. She passed over being born, and then I kept hearing her. I kept hearing babies crying. As time went on, I heard people shouting "mum" or "mummy," and then it just got too loud. But I will be perfectly honest, when that happened, I thought I was having a breakdown. It was like as if it had been there all the time, but a little bit sort of merging in and out of my life. And then when that happened, it just was there nearly all the time. And after I lost Christy, I had twin baby boy and girl, and I was terrified that if I actually told anybody about it, that they would take them away from me. So I didn't. And then like the universe and spirit are so clever, because they do put you in synchronization with where you're supposed to be at the right time. And I know you and I are both really big believers in that, and we've got evidence to prove it. But this particular thing was, I'd got a job and something happened that just made it impossible for me to stay. And I'm not a quitter. So having actually left that job, I was then like, I need something that fits around my kids. I need something to still bring some income in. So I trained up to be a nail technician, and, doing fake nails. And one of the women who answered the ad in the paper was actually a very well-known Yorkshire medium. And obviously I'm doing her nails, and I didn't realise that who she was really, because she chat about stuff. And then she said to me one day in the middle of doing her nails, she said, "You can do what I can do." And I went, "I don't think so." She went, "You can." She said, "If you just allow yourself to do so, they're telling me you can." And then it was just like, it got crazy. So I decided to start and let it happen. And within a year, I'd got a waiting list of people waiting to see me. It just went crazy, and I've been doing it ever since. So
You've had a waiting list ever since. Where do we come from?
Well, I believe that there is many dimensions. I believe that this is like a giant game of Sims, and we get a chance to come down here through choice and try all this stuff that's going off here. And there's nowhere else in the universe that I know of that has as many treats as this does, and as many chances to learn. So here you can see a sunset, here you can hold a baby, here you can experience loss, here you can understand about money and stuff like that. So I think we're in a dimension where we choose where we can learn. I think the further up we evolve, we can go to many other different dimensions as well, but that's usually after this preliminary sort of kind of preschool, if you like. And this is so we choose, but we always choose to be in the same soul group. We will come back with the same people time and time again. And the lightness of it for them, so it'll be like, we're in spirit, we're deciding what we're going to do. I think I'll give a human life a go, and I'll go down, and I might experience an extreme illness, or I might, and just to see if I can keep grace in that, or I might experience abuse. And nobody would think you would sign up for that. But it's the best way to learn grace if you suffer. We know that we come out of adversity better than anything else. So, and the ones of us that have had a difficult life but have still kept grace, I know we've been here a few times, we've done this before. Then you get the ones that hurt everybody and are a bit, unevolved. Then they'll have to do loads of lessons. But we choose what we look at. And then you might get a little spirit that says, "I'll come with you. If you want to experience loss, then I'll stay with you for a bit, but I'll bob back up." Is that okay? "Oh, that'd be great, thank you, because I learned so much from that." We don't know that when we're going through it, though. So we experience all this heartache, and everything feels permanent, and it's just not. And then, we kind of get recycled. I believe that in reincarnation to a degree. And I believe that we wait till everybody here that can remember us has also gone over. And then we all come back down and do another scenario together. Or some of us choose to go in different directions. Some of us are guides, helpers. It's all part of a tiny chapter of such a big novel, a whole experience. This is just a tiny bit.
I completely agree that we move in soul groups. When me and you met, that were it. We were going to be mates. I mean, before we knew where we were going out, and now, you're friends with my friends. A friend that I did some work for years ago is a really good friend of yours. Those things for me, they don't happen by accident. It's kind of, it's kind of a knowing. But just going back to what you said about spirit coming in and out, I have to say, and we've discussed it many times, I knew my son were going to die the minute they put him in my arms. And I turned to the midwife and said, she wrote to me after, I've still got the letter somewhere, she said, if anybody knew, you knew. And I said, they said, oh, it's a little boy, he's gorgeous. And I just looked up and said, what do you do when they die? What do you say to the mother? And she said, what a crazy thing to say, he's perfect. And I said, I need to know. And I knew I had a premonition. It's just coming up to the anniversary, actually. I had a premonition the night before. I knew we were almost telepathic. It was just one of those things that in my soul, I knew. And I have to say that has made it easier for me. But you know, these souls that come in and out. So is Jackson 32, 31, nearly 31, or is he still a baby?
Well, that depends. I mean, your soul is actually ageless. We know that because of, well, I say we know that. There's a lot of scientific evidence, and we're looking into this. People set out to disprove what we do, and they end up proving it. So, you know, science and spirituality, as you know, are much closer connected nowadays than they ever were. I mean, gosh, 100 years ago, probably would have been burnt at stake one time, but nowadays people are at least giving it a go. But back to what you were saying, your soul is actually ageless. They know that because when something dies, it emits more photons of light as it's dying. That doesn't matter whether it's a leaf or a person, and they can monitor it to a certain point, and then all our equipment can't monitor it after that. Kind of proves to me that you turn to light. Your energy that makes you turns to light. So your soul is ageless, so that doesn't age. But for mediums, he might come through to me as a baby to show me that that's how he passed. So, but actually, you know, he probably is maybe thousands and thousands of years old, you know, and very wise for him to choose to give his mum this chance to grow. And not only that, but you've helped so many other people through your loss as well. That's the thing as well. It's not just an individual thing, is it? Because I know you help people by understanding where they've been and offering like a different way of looking at things, which is essential, I think.
Well, you described him as an adult in a way that nobody would ever know. You would never have known. You would never have, even if you knew me, you wouldn't have seen a picture of Jackson because there are none on the internet.
I remember his curly, wavy, dark hair and his really dark eyes. And yet, like you said, just to me, looked really Italian.
Yeah, absolutely. You know. And my second son has got dark, wavy hair. It's like a thing for the men in the family.
Yeah.
So how does this work then? Because I remember going, and we can't say who it was because it was a bit of a public figure in France. So, you know, there may be French people that would know who these people were. And somebody got in touch, and I went to, you probably remember, we went to Paris together. And we were picked up from the airport, and we went to this apartment in Paris. We knew nothing about these people, only that they, you know, one of them was some kind of personality there. And you read for a man, and I can't remember the exact details, but I think he'd lost somebody in a car crash, but he didn't speak English, and you don't speak French. And I remember sitting and watching that. And Spirit, because you were absolutely bang on, you came up with names, what happened, the detail was incredible, even dates. And Spirit was speaking to you in English, even though it was somebody that were French. You were then telling somebody, a dual speaker, who was then telling the person you were reading for in French. And that was amazing. I mean, does language exist when you get to other side? It can't do, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to speak to that person.
No, I mean, a lot of what comes through is like little mini pictures in your head, you know, like a movie. I mean, I am actually clairaudient, so voices are the thing that I rely on most in my work. But I'll get an image of somebody in my mind, and I'll be able to say to them, gosh, I just look like her or him or whatever. But I do believe that I get this translated. I mean, basically, I tune into the love that's left. Whatever, love cannot be destroyed. It's an emotion that stays throughout this universe and doesn't die. And that's what I tune in. So I can go with a lot of feeling and everything with it. But with foreign people that have passed. It's usually translated for me. A really good quick story about that actually is I did an event in Derby, and there was a young lady in the audience who'd lost her gran, and her gran brought her up. Her mum, for whatever reason, wasn't around, so her gran brought her up. And she came through with all this message for her, and she sat there, this girl, and she's going, yes, that's right, yes, that's right, is that right? But she didn't look like she was convinced. So I said to her, is everything okay? She said, yes, what you've said is right, but it can't be my gran. And then all of a sudden, this voice in Polish said, I love you. And she used to call her a Pippi or something. It's not quite that. I've probably forgot as time's gone on, but some really strange little name in Polish. And I repeated it, and I couldn't tell you what it was now to save my life. But and she just burst into tears. She said, yes, my grandma was Polish and not English speaking, and that's why I didn't think it was her. But you've just told me that she loves me in Polish. I said, I bet I can't say it again. But it was really bizarre. It was like that extra bit of proof for them. So yeah, they translate, I guess.
One of the things that amazes me, you came, I was sat on front row with a few other friends when you did a theatre. And you possibly don't remember it because you've done lots of theatres, but the place was rammed. And I know what it's like to be on stage when the lights are down and you just can't see anybody. And there was a friend of ours, and I don't even know where she was. She was right up at rafters somewhere. And you looked and you knew where she was. And it was actually, she'd lost her husband and it was their wedding anniversary. And you described what she was wearing. I mean, and then you said, it's your wedding anniversary, such and such is here. You went very quickly and all the detail of it, which was mesmerising. But how do you know who to go to? Is it a big arrow that comes down on their head? Or when there's so many people, a little light?
A little light. In that kind of environment, in a smaller audience, which I've got to be honest, I do kind of prefer because it's a little bit more, like, it's easier for me really, you know, why wear your socks off if you don't have to, but there's usually a little light over their head, but like something inside me, and I think I will call it my spirit, it takes over. Because actually I was the most shy person ever, you know, a bit of an ugly duckling, never really, I've like I've said before, difficult childhood, and never really felt important. And if I allowed my physical self to do what I do, I'd be like a wreck. But something takes over, and it's so fluid that, you know, you kind of, and obviously, you know, unless we're having this kind of conversation, I don't think about it anymore. It just happens. It's just what happens.
I must say that when you're working, something goes on with your eyes. They go a bit goggly. And then when you're back in the room, you're back in the room.
Yeah, I know, it's true. And usually my kids will go, you know, if it happens and I'm not officially working, say somebody from our family comes in and I'm sat with my kids, they'll go, who's here? So they know straight away. So they say my eyes flipped at side as if I'm listening or looking for somebody. Yeah.
But also, spirit must attach itself to you, because another very true story, and I don't need to tell lies to anybody, but I had a good friend called Janet who passed. We were in Paris together when I got the phone call to say she'd gone. And her beautiful sons. There was one, it must be 3 years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago, and you don't read for me now because we know each other very well, and you know, I know you're just too busy. I know, you know, just stick me to end at Q when you get a minute. But,
sorry about that, love.
Yeah, I know, and I'm so happy. You know, you are the best reader on the planet. For me, there's no question. And I just got this urge to come and see you, and I hadn't had a reading with you. Might not remember, and I just had this urge. You gotta go see Joe. And I walked in, you were in a studio in Sheffield, and I went in and your eyes were goggly the second I walked through the door, and I sat down. I goes, hiya, and he goes, oh, this isn't for you. Janet's here. One of the boys is getting married. I goes, yeah, next week. And you said, she's got you here because she wants you to tell that boy she will be, God, it really gets me.
No,
She will be at that wedding. She will be at that wedding. She just wants him to know. And I did tell him at the wedding reception. There were no doubt about that. It was indisputable. You would never have known.
That you would get. Well, I know. I never met her, did I? I mean, only just got to meet her when she passed. So.
But how does that work? How could she find you, then speak to me, then get me to go in car, make that appointment, you know?
Well, they sort of kind of, their souls will nudge yours because, you know, one of the big things, and this is not just about readings or psychic stuff, we're all linked. We're all part of a whole. And that's why, you know, you and I can't understand some of the cruelty that goes off in this world. But we are all linked. We are all from the same pot. So it's like you knowing to scratch your ankle. If it itches, there's a little nudge. And they will let you know. And obviously, I'm like a mobile phone up there. They are aware that I can hear them, so they will know, and they will also be aware of, you know, the synchronicity of everything and how to manipulate it. So, yeah.
She was a bit of a character, and absolutely true. When the baby were born, Janet took me shopping. Yeah. There was no question, and she wouldn't let me stop. And I could hear her. I don't do what you do. But in the same way that I was driven to come and see you, it was right. Now we need a little rabbit dummy to go with that. And then you've got to go to the next shop. And when I sent the parcel to the family, I just got a text going, that was chosen by my mother. There were no question.
Yeah.
So when people hurt you, Jo, you know, we've had our interesting times.
Yeah.
When people hurt you, how does that happen? Is that pre-arranged before we come here? You know, do they go to hell? Do we go to hell? Is it to learn? How does that set up when people, on purpose or inadvertently, kick the living shit out of you?
Well, the really big stuff like genocides and things like that, I'm probably a bit deep for this particular one. We might do another one about that because it's a bit controversial, but I do believe that we grow from adversity. So sometimes the difficult things are a bit predestined to cause a global coming together. We're sort of kind of doing that kind of stuff at the moment, or we should be. But on a personal basis, people who hurt you, you know, the ones that are really capable of doing that, there is only two reasons a person, and I'm not talking about psychological issues here, you know, people who are proper broken and something's not wired up right. I'm talking about general people you see bobbing about in the streets. It's either because they are fearful themselves and coming from a fearful place, in which case they will attack, which so many people do. It's not right, but they do it. Or they are just not evolved and don't understand the cause and effect of what they're doing. And that's what karma's for. That's basically going to, you know, teach them a massive lesson, and it will hit them where it hurts. You can guarantee that. You may never see it. You may never experience it yourself for them, but you will know that definitely will be balanced up. And we also choose. You see, there's three reasons our world turns out like it does. So one of them is the karma. That's not quite what people think. It's your soul's choice. So before you come down here, you will choose what you're going to do. You're going to be Nicky. You're going to do this for a job. You're going to have Darnie. You've got a contract with Jackson, whatever that was, you know, and you've survived it. So you've done it with grace. And so several other big things, health issues and different things that you choose to look at or not. So that's karma, and you can't really come off that path. You're going to keep getting drawn back because it's for your highest good that you stick to it. Then there's alignment. That's timing, when things are meant to happen. Person walks in through a door at a certain time, just as you turn around and you meet them, and things are meant to be. And then in the middle, the big thing that absolutely F's it all up, excuse.
No, because I don't swear, Jo, do I?
No, I know, but I don't know who's listening. No,
let me tell you, this lot are worse than us, let me tell you.
All right, no okay. Problem. Well, anyway, that is free will. And because we learn better if we do it of our own accord, because Spirit could quite easily say, go to corner of Cole Square, you know, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Man of your dreams is there. He's wearing a red coat. You'll be together forever. You'll never have any money worries, da, 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 da. And that would be wonderful for 5 minutes. And in 5 minutes, you'd be bored. You'd be looking for something else to do. You would be testing yourself and your boundaries, because where we appreciate good is from having a bad experience, and where we grow is from having a bad experience. But promise you, karma sorts them out. These people that do the stuff, it comes back in a way. Heaven and hell, I think it's different frequencies. I think there's a place you're going to go where, you know, you're going to learn that the real hard way. And maybe, I don't know, some of the negative stuff we've had might not just be to teach us, but it could be to show us, you know, what we didn't get last time. I don't know. I don't know for definite, but I know that the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, that creative force that made everything is only anything but good. So, you know, you will come up from the knocks.
I have to say, and we've talked about this a lot, every inverted commas bad thing that has ever happened to me, I wouldn't change, because it set me on a path to create what I came here to do. And I see the grace in even the loss of my son. And I've talked about it a lot. You know, I have got the gift that I've got, which it's nothing, obviously, it's not what you do. I'm working
still valuable though, Nicky, still valuable, darling. There's nothing less valuable.
It's about expression, seeing who people really are and how to express themselves. That happened that day, because I felt my soul go and I was never the same since. And I thank God for that, because that was why I was put here. When we leave here, do we choose, or is it predestined? Have I got a little ticket in my pocket somewhere that says, right, Nicky, you know I can't count, but you'll be 79 and on the 10th of December, blah, 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 you're about to ruin everybody's Christmas. Or depending which way you look at it. How does it work? And there's a phenomenon, and I know that it did happen with my father. My father was dying. I got to the door one day and he just said, Nico, that's what he used to call me, Nico, I'm going on Thursday. And I said, don't be ridiculous, you're coming home, we're getting the house. He goes, Nico, I'm going on Thursday. And that Thursday, to minute to midnight, it left the planet. I know that's a phenomenon. What happens? Do we choose? Is it stamped? And then tell us where we go to.
Okie dokie. So I believe that the only two things that are concrete in this human life is the day you're born and the day you leave. And I think obviously the karma is very, very rigid, might not be concrete. So you've got to stick to it. And if you don't, you'll have to do it all again and again and again until you get it. But when it goes over, I mean, obviously I've worked with people at the other side, obviously, who are just as eager to pass a message on to you as you are to receive one. It's a definite two-way street. I didn't realise that for many years. I thought my job was to help people here, but it's also to help them to communicate what they need, what they didn't get a chance to say. But I've also worked with people who've had near-death experiences and have come for answers because they could have been completely skeptical. I mean, a lot of people, have thought there's nothing. When you go, there's nothing. Then they have this near-death experience and they find out that actually there is something. People start to come around you when you're in and out, ready to go, and things like that. But what the common consensus is when you pass over, it is like feeling every bit of love you've ever felt in your entire life all in one go. And that it's euphoric and it's not scary and it doesn't hurt. So obviously when your body's breaking down for whatever reason, or you've been in an accident, after a point it stops. As your spirit leaves, you don't feel anything apart from the love. And everybody that has already passed on before you will be there. So the little end bit of Ghost with Patrick Swayze is absolutely on point, because your relatives and your soul group that are already up there, your dogs, your cats, your horses, your mice, everything, will all be there waiting for you to join them in that next dimension. And then I believe it pretty much looks like you want it to look. So, you know, we create here by what we believe to be true happens for us. And it's so many people don't realize that. You know, so if your life's not what you want it to be, then change this, change the way you're thinking. But obviously, in the next dimension, your physical impediments, I'll call them, are out of the way. So you're just going to create what you want it to look like there. A lady I know who had a near-death experience, and I've known her for years, and she was an avid baker. And she said when she went over, that it was a big kitchen, and there were all women dressed in white baking. And she said, if I come here, can I have a piece of this kitchen? And she said, absolutely, you can, but you're not staying with us yet, but we'll save you a bit for when you come back. And she came back, and she remembers it vividly.
One of the questions that people sent me was, can they still see us? Can they still look after us? When we speak to them, can they hear us?
100%, because they aren't attached to me. So many people think that, you know, I've done party bookings in you know, previous days, and they've gone, take them all home with you, won't you? Don't leave them all here. I'm like, what, do I walk about with like every single dead person there is? So what they don't realise is actually they are with you, and I can connect with them because I'm in your space, whether it's like this or on phone or obviously. So yeah, all they need is your attention on them, and they will automatically draw to them. So if you think about them, you talk about them, you look at something that's theirs, that they can move closer. That love bond, well, you still love Jackson with every blooming fibre of your being, and he's not here, and he knows that, and he still loves you. So, you know, that's the bit that doesn't get destroyed. So yes, they know. And also, apparently, there is a set of records called the Akashic Records that sort of give us a little bit of the idea of the karma that I was talking about earlier. So they can go and have a neb. I mean, I know my grand does. You know, I've read for kids, and she's gone, well, I've been and had a look, and they're not supposed to. I've been and had a look, and apparently it's all going to be all right. This is going to happen, and da-da-da. Which is why they also know what's going to happen and where we're going to be.
I have to admit that last year was a bit of a dark year for me. As you know, we're out of it now. We're on an ascent. Thank you, God. But I remember sitting downstairs with my head in my hands saying, sorry, I've got a bit of a bad throat at the minute. Jackson, come to mummy. Jackson, come to mummy. And I don't know if people can relate to this. I found it much easier to go to my elder son, because I would never want to bother with my younger son, even though he's 36'3" and, you know, tough as fuck, to be honest. But I wouldn't want to burden him. I still speak to my elder son, and I speak to him every day, you know, and I ask him, and I'm going to ask you about God in a second, but every morning, you know, I do my work in a slightly different way. We both kind of do the same thing. We do a lot of stuff on Zoom now. But every morning I say, right, Jackson, come on, we're going to help these people. But I also pray to a God. And I can't tell you what that God looks like, but I can tell you what that God feels like, because that God has been to me many times, many times, and assisted me helping other people in what I do. Tell me what you think about who's God, what is God? Do we pray? Is it what like we see in the Bible? What's the actual crack, Jo?
Okay, so it's a big thing for me, this, because because you get like a chunk of skeptics, don't you? And then there are certain groups of people with certain beliefs that think that what I do is demonic. Now, you've only got to be in my company for about 24 hours to know.
About 3 seconds, actually.
Yeah, that I get worried if my library books are late. So there's nothing demonic here at all. And I work with love, and I do it for the right reasons. And I believe that the energy that created everything is not just a person. It is an energy, and it is it is godlike. It is a God. I mean, it's really hard to put into words, because if you want to call it God, if you want to call it Jesus, if you want to call it Buddha, if you want to call it Allah, you can call it anything you want to, but it is all the same. If you look at every single religious teaching, and I promise you I have, especially back in the day, when I wanted to know why me, why had I got this, why was I like I am, and what was the spiritual reason for it. So I read every book front to back, a lot of them, and they all say the same thing. They all say that there's an entity, an energy, a being that's greater than everything, that has made everything that we experience, and that we are part of them. We are a little tiny little chunk of them doing a human life for the common good of everything, for everybody to learn. You know, Carl Jung said that there's a place in all of us, the collective unconscious, is it, I think, or conscious, collective conscious or unconscious, I'm not sure. But that's the place where we all know the same things. And, you know, we don't all go up there, but we are all connected on some level. That's, you know, that's why, you know, a group of people over here learn something, and then that country over there suddenly automatically know it. It's like the 99th monkey thing. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
So it's that kind of thing. So I believe it's more an energy, but I know it's benevolent. I know that it's loving. I know that it is just pure love, and that it cares about all of us, because we are part of it. It's our kid. We're like its kids, you know, and it's going to always forgive us, protect us, guide us, like you would your own 2-year-old. You know, especially because we are learning down here without a rule book.
Yeah, last question I'm going to ask you is, what have you learned? So what happens, you know, and I know that you have done exorcisms. I'm right, aren't I, saying that you've been called upon to go and speak to spirit that are stuck in houses. How does that work? What's all that about?
Well, at least 90% of what people think about hauntings and ghosts is just imagination and made up. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I have worked in certain areas where, you know, it's just all a big pile of poop, really, but it sells. So it sells telly. But actually, there is sometimes a spirit that is so hurt that it stays stuck. I went to a house near where I lived in my younger years, because there'd been a report of a face on the wall. The kids were talking to it, and it turns out that the gentleman who had lived there, not the last tenant but the tenant before, had shot himself through his mouth. So this face was like, it just, you know, it wasn't there all the time, but the house was cold, and he was so broken and so desperately hurt by life that's why he did what he did. So we just went in. It was me and another friend, because I don't like to do them on my own. You see, I don't think I'm scared until stuff like that starts happening. And then I'm like not quite so brave. But, you know, I mean, sometimes it's just, you can feel the energy. There's usually a horrible smell, you know, like a bit sulphury, really awful smell. And you just have to go into a deep meditation with them, connect with them like I would family that are already over, and tell them that they're safe to go, that there's a better place for them to heal, and that they don't have to stay here, and then they do go. I mean, I've simplified that because obviously it's a bit more complicated, but yeah, you just have to let them know that they can, like you see on telly, go to the light. And then they can heal then. There is also another thing which is called residual energy, and if somebody's it's not actually the person's spirit, but like the sort of icky stuff, a bit like some bits of aura, if you like, that are left, and that's easier to clear because you can just like heal the space and alter the energy in the room. But that can sometimes cause disruptions and people who live there to be like affected by it.
So just going back to people that we've lost, do they stay there all the time, or do they bob off and keep coming back? Because surely, I mean, you wouldn't want people to see you in Bath, would you? Or worse?
Yeah.
I know that people that have, so people that have lost people close to them, do they stay in the house for a while? Do you get to see your own funeral? Because I tell you what, there's going to be some pissed off people with this COVID, like when there's only 3 people being able
they
to go.
definitely see their own funeral, because I would imagine at least 90% of the readings of people that have recently passed always say, oh God, my funeral was great, thanks for the music, and somebody wrote me a letter and it went in my coffin, or, you know, and they'll talk about that because that is their last thing that they get, you know, before they start to heal and move on themselves. So yeah, they definitely see that. But this, my friend Einstein, he believed that if you could travel at the speed of light, then time would stop for you. And I think that when our spirit dies, well, our body dies, sorry, our spirit turns to light. In that case, it is highly likely that it would be able to move at the speed of light, in which case time would stop for it. And it makes it omnipresent. So for them, they can think about you, be here, think about, you know, darn it, and be there, and they can be in all places at once. Little parts of their consciousness will be able to perceive that. What I say to people about when you're having a wee, or worse, like you say, or with the man of your dreams, you know, and you don't want your granny watching, what you do is you have to remember that they are physical things, they are bodily functions, and they are baseline human stuff. Our spirit, our love is very high end and you know, much more higher frequency. They're only up there, so all that bit, they don't even see it. So you're all right.
No, just talking about funerals. By now, maybe people have watched the film, the little film that we made of you with the Christmas tree coming out your head. And there is a particularly moving bit there, and it's a lady. I mean, just watch it, and then dispute what Joanne's saying, but not till you've watched the film. And you were saying to there were 3 ladies, and I think it was the grandma were there, the daughter were there, and I think it was the mother that had left. And you were saying, she's saying, Vera, why are we playing Vera Lynn? Why are we playing Vera Lynn? I can hear Vera Lynn, and they played Vera Lynn at a funeral. And that, you know, that is the amount of detail that for me makes, I've seen it, I've experienced it. What kind of a gift do you think Joanne has actually got?
A lovely gift. Lovely.
Yeah. She helped so many people here tonight. Yeah. She came right up and she went, "Who's got the photo on the phone?" And it was me. And then straight away she said, "It's your daughter," and she started talking about her.
Your mum wanted you to know that she's okay. She got through to other side okay. She's saying thank you for putting the photograph inside a coffin. And the send-off were beautiful. I can hear Vera Lynn. Yeah. So does that make sense to her? So she's singing like Vera Lynn songs at the top of her little lungs, bless her.
When she were on about the latest addition to our family, and what she said, it was a Bobby Dazzler.
And also a baby boy coming in as well. Are you aware of that?
We've just had a baby boy. Yeah.
Okay, she thinks he's wonderful. Said he's a Bobby Dazzler.
That's what word she would say.
Yeah, it was.
Bobby Dazzler. That's what she called her grandchildren.
You still have her teacup, don't you?
Yeah.
And she said to tell you that she was with you the other day when you were sorting through your tablecloths.
Yeah.
You don't put tablecloths anymore, but you've got a bucket load of them.
They're hers.
They're hers, are they? She's also mentioning tartan curtains around you as well. Who's got checked curtains up?
I just bought my daughter some 2 days ago.
So she was with you when you bought the tartan curtains. And
she even said about the grey tartan curtains. Now, I bought them my daughter 2 days ago. You know, I mean, how would she know that?
What do you do with people that'll go, it's bollocks?
Well, this is the thing, you see, you're always going to get somebody and they're either completely sceptical and oblivious and think that there just isn't anything there, or they're frightened. And you do get people, I mean, some people it wouldn't matter if we managed to get Jesus here, fully formed, having a conversation, some people will not be swayed. Now, I'm not here to change people's minds. I'm here to be of service to those who want to connect with people that have passed and see if we can get anything, because I can't guarantee it. Sometimes it's a little bit fragmented for me, so I might get the Vera Lynn song, but I won't know why, because then they don't actually play it and then go, oh, by the way, this was the track that was on as I was going into my funeral. They don't do that because there's a limited amount of energy and a lot of information to get through. Plus, they're talking to me, they're making me feel things. I'm seeing things in my mind. It's all alien to me because I don't know the family. So, if it was with you and I got a mental picture, I could think, oh, maybe that's so-and-so, and then I can tell you. But when I don't know them, so, it's never going to be an exact science. It is, I can only do what they give me. Some people go, well, why don't they come through with the date that they passed? And the thing is, when they've gone over, they don't actually care about that. All they want to say in that little space they've got with me is, does she know I love her? That's all they're bothered about. Does she know that I know I was loved? Because that they don't care about little stuff like, is that pile of work still on my desk? And did somebody walk dog? They're just not bothered. They just want you to know they're okay. So the skeptics, I used to tolerate them and I used to try to convince them. And I have many, but I'm tired of that. And I think, save your money.
Yeah.
Don't bother. Just carry on. You have a right to believe what you believe, but so do I. And I know this is true. I know it is, because it's just there's just been too many big things. So, I mean, you've only really got to sit and listen with an open mind, and it changes your mind. I'm biggest skeptic ever. Just got a quick story. I've changed names to protect this person.
Be innocent.
Yeah, but he came for a reading and he booked in with one name. We'll call him Bob. He booked in as Bob, and you'll know, Nicky, if I have somebody who does my admin for me, and she takes a Christian name so I know who I'm talking to, and a contact number just in case I have to cancel for whatever reason, or we need to get in touch with them. That's all. And one person once said to me, well, I bet you Googled me. I went, come here, let's get on your phone now and put just your Christian name and your mobile number in and see what comes up. Well, obviously nothing. Say with, Mike, and then some famous Mike would come up instead of him, and plus I'm not that bright, I wouldn't remember it all. So anyway, but this particular man, he came and he told me, say his name was Bob. Anyway, he sat down and I said to him, your mum's here. So he sat back like this, and I said, she's telling me she passed with a heart attack really suddenly and you didn't get any warning. And he's looking at me, and I went, she wants to know why you're saying your name's Bob when it's really Dave. And he went, how do you know that? I said, well, why did you do that? I said, why did you do that? I said, I've been calling you Bob. He went, well, I didn't believe in it, did I? I said, well, there you go. Anyway, it turned out that there were really big reasons why you needed to be there. But if you sit and watch it enough and you just give it a chance.
You only need to watch, by now people will, I hope, have watched the film that I made, because there was a soldier literally sat behind me who were going, and you said, you've never been here to anything like this. Your mate's here, he got blown up, but he had an accident. You were there, and he's laughing at you because he said you'd never come to anything like this, and you thought it was rubbish, didn't you? You actually say that. Please watch that. It's incredible. So, crikey, time goes on, doesn't it? I don't want to let you go before we've asked you about COVID. So what's going to happen? What's it about? And this, maybe all the souls that are going with this chose to come and go with COVID, but, how's it all going to end? Do you know? Can you see that?
Well, when I started to see it in people's readings, because people have obviously said, did I see it coming? I actually thought we were going to have a war. So I'm quite relieved it's just a virus, because I knew that there would be a time where that everybody would be affected. But, I'm going to just go back to what you believe to be true comes real for you. I mean, people are dying of so many other things all the time, constantly, and we're not paying attention to those. This is getting bigger because we're feeding it. The background behind it, I'm really not sure it's what we think it is, but we do create our life by what we believe to be true, and in future dimensions, when we move on, we will think of something and it will be there. This one, we've got time to think about what we're doing, so you don't wish somebody dead and then they go. So obviously, just my message to everybody about this is choose what you feed. Yes, be safe. Yes, take care of each other. Yes, make sure that you stick to what legally we have to stick to, but don't let it get bigger than what it is, because if we all started to see a cure for this, if we all started to see it going away collectively, that is exactly what I believe would happen.
Yeah, well, please, God, let that happen soon. What have you learned? What have you learned from your life, Jo? What have you learned from this very different life?
2 things. Nothing is permanent. Nothing, except us. We will live on no matter what. Nothing can destroy you if you opt out of this life, if you're taken from this life. When you're worrying about the money in your bank account and you're worried about something bad happening to somebody close to you or being on your own for the rest of your life, it won't be like that if you choose to think otherwise. We are creators. That's what I've learned. And I believe that our love, that spirit, that part of us that makes us us, I mean, me and you are both female, but we're different because of what's inside, that will never ever be destroyed. So please don't worry about everything so much, because we're all going to be okay in the end.
Well, honest to God, I could talk to you all day and all night, and quite often do speak to you all night. That has been incredible. I'm going to put all your details at the bottom and the film that we're talking about. And I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't have a few readings to put at the end of a very long queue, my friend.
I'm going to say, please be patient, everybody, if you do want to see me, but I will always do my best for you, definitely.
Oh, thank you, Joanne. Thank you so much. You take care of yourself.
And you too, my love. Have a great day.